Orale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. This is your host, Jorge Martin, and so happy. Football is back, Familia. And you know what? We got more guests. I'm not flying solo today. My voice is back. Thank you. Thank you for time after COVID. But please, por favor, give us a like and subscribe. We are live on YouTube. Por favor, give us a like and subscribe. Give us a little bit of a thumbs up. Oh, we got some friends in the house. Before I do the read, I just got to say hello to a couple people. Oh my goodness, Dame Overboard, what's up? What's up? Thankfully, we made it through that heat wave. Yes. My guy Jahan. Yes, yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, third round. Oh, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about him in a second. And El Señor Jose Wright. Oh, you're either 101 or the 102. You're always the 101 here, with these guys. Jose, muchas gracias. Oh, everybody, familia, if you have not seen Starts, Sits, and Salutations on the Front Yard Fantasy YouTube channel, go watch it. Kevin and I are co-stars. So you got to check it out. I barely had a speaking part. We both had barely speaking parts, but it's still worth checking it out. So, familia. Welcome. We survived week one, and also making sure that you're checking out the Fantasy Points Media Group. We are a proud member of the Fantasy Points Media Group. You're going to fantasypoints.com. Make sure you're putting in that promo code 22Familia10 and you get 10% off your subscription. Familia, it's helped. People, I'm in the Discord all the time because I'm helping out with the Fantasy Points Discord, and people are talking about how much it's helping them win their fantasy leagues, how much better they felt prepared for their drafts and the moves to make. So get in there, go to fantasypoints.com. And so, familia, I got to welcome in our invitado de lujo, Kevin Tompkins. I swear he is someone that I've been following for a long time, even before I started to create fantasy football content. So someone I've just enjoyed knowing from afar, and got to know him a little bit a month ago. And I swear he wears so many hats. He is with Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. He's Fantasy Alarm. He's one of the hosts of Lightning Round Fantasy and founded the Fantasy Besties. As I mentioned, we got to hang out a little bit at Canton because we spent time and you've heard me gushing about this before, that King's Classic auction draft, where I just tell you, it was one of my favorite draft experiences ever. I actually had a couple of friends find me on Twitter and they're texting me during the draft. So, familia, I want to welcome in someone and look at his background. It might need some updating because AJ Brown balled out last week, but again, these are some of my favorite players that he's got back there. So we are very much, very much similar tastes in football players. So I want to welcome in, straight out of Fargo. Senor Kevin Tompkins. Kevin, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, absolutely. I got some updating to do, but Fargo ain't bad in the summer. It's as soon as like October hits, we'll be ducking for cover with the 60-mile-an-hour winds and negative 60 wind chill. But for now, it's at least it's bearable. In this getting into fall here.
Yeah, so you guys are the ones that look at the people and complaining in Green Bay, and then all of a sudden it's like, they're saying it's 12. You say, yeah, but there's no wind. You can tell them it's no wind.
Oh, it's like a Tuesday. Come on.
Oh, but so first off, we survived week one. How did you how did it treat you, and any kind of season long take a major hit?
Week one was at least for me and my teams pretty good, considering I tended to draft a lot of the wide receivers and pretty much all of them hit outside of like CeeDee Lamb. But yeah, even the ones that when I did take a running back, like the DeAndre Swifts and Saquon Barkley's, Javonte Williams even too, those guys hit in a major way too. So I will say it was a very good week one, at least for me, where I did not take a bunch of Dallas Cowboys.
Oh yeah, that was there were a couple times where I was looking at Dak and I got sniped on him, and then I ended up getting Tom Brady instead. And he was not that great, but yeah, I'll still take I'll still take the guy who's still going to be out there for the next, whatever it is, 4, 6, 7 weeks.
Yeah,
So
just got to weather the storm.
weather the storm. Yeah. Oh, I want to say a quick hello to Amigo J Wall, who creates all the thumbnails for Familia FFB. Amigo, yeah, and he was one of the stars of the flag football. So he was the one who
Okay.
he's the one who had the Randy Moss jersey. So
Okay, I do. Okay, I do remember that. I would not be caught dead out there. I played football in high school, but those days were long behind me. If they had you know what, I will say this: if they had like the punt, pass, and kick, I think I could probably manage that. I can kick. I did kick. I could probably boot like a 40, 45-yard punt like right now, just running outside. But I did see some people kicking field goals. I did want to go out there, but I got to warm up first. I need about a good, 11 months to properly get warmed up.
yeah, exactly. Get those leg muscles nice and stretched out.
Yep.
I swear. Yeah, no, yeah, I was like, Jay Wall, I'm there to support you. Mr. Scampers, who I know you follows have been in the lightning round. So
Mr. Scampers is literally everywhere. Like, I do not know how Mr. Scampers finds time to find every single fantasy football related podcast, but forever thankful for the podcast spokescat, Mr. Scampers.
yeah, and I will tell you one thing, a little secret, which I've divulged. I have met Mr. Scampers face to face, but I will not divulge our favorite cat
Identity.
So yeah, so met face to face. So it was awesome moment at the Scott Fishbowl LA draft. So no, just good. Yeah, we sprinkle catnip on all the shows. Yeah, my catnip has a little salsa so on it. So we go there. But you know what? Speaking of players who are hot, you right above your I guess it's your right ear. There's the AJ Brown jersey.
Oh yeah.
That beginning, how scintillating was that to watch that? And can he just? I mean, does it look like he could just blow past the 106 targets that he's had?
Oh yeah, I mean, really the only thing has been health. I mean, just him staying on the field, but I mean, everything you wanted to see out of AJ Brown, we got. He ran 95% of routes. He's just a clear, even over Devonta Smith. If Devonta Smith had, I believe, 4 targets and didn't catch any of them. I mean, it was AJ Brown and the rest. So, the friendship narrative is fully in play with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. The Eagles didn't go out and get AJ Brown, and they're not going to be running the ball at a 50% clip, which was the league low, or I'm sorry, the league high last season. They're going to be passing more. AJ Brown's going to be the chief beneficiary. Gotta love it. If he can put together a full season, a full 17 game season, I mean, AJ Brown can be the overall wide receiver 1. I mean, I know there's a lot of stiff competition with Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, but I mean, AJ Brown can certainly do that. Like, why not?
And it was great because they all balled out. I mean, that was the thing, I kind of had this intuition, this feeling that the Eagles and the Raiders would take their new receiver, and actually to a certain extent the Dolphins too would take that new toy and just make it, just run with it. And I think that's what that's what ended up happening. Now we just got to have it happen for 17 more games. So
yeah, that's all.
That's it. Just 16 more games. That's it.
Not asking for much.
No, please just keep doing that. So, I've been, answering a lot of questions about the San Francisco backfield the last couple of days. How are you kind of handling it? And people asking you and coming to you for advice. There's Jeff Wilson, there's Ty Davis Price, Jordan Mason, the undrafted free agent who Cam Inman of the East Bay Times told me to keep an eye on. Or is it going to be a committee with sprinkling in a little Debo and a lot of Trey Lance?
Yeah, I mean, we know Jeff Wilson was, I would say, the top waiver claim this week. I mean, and rightly so. But I mean, it also begs the question: how much more can Deebo Samuel be involved in the run game? So that's where I kind of draw the line. I think Jeff Wilson is, plenty startable in fantasy, but I'm maybe just a little bit hesitant to just go full bore on Jeff Wilson. I do like, the profile of Tyrion Davis-Price too, and Jordan Mason. So we know the Niners, I mean, the tale as old as time. The 49ers backfield is as fluid as ever. Things can change, in a quarter, in a week, whatever the case may be. But there's a window here for a guy. I mean, we've seen Jeff Wilson, have a lot of productive games, over the past 3-4 seasons. Just he always finds his way to have one or two of those every season. So, he'll certainly get first crack at it, but I would not be surprised if we're looking at week 4 that Jordan Mason is pacing this backfield right now in Elijah Mitchell's wake.
And that's the thing, people before the season were saying, "Oh, this is going to be the first year that they break the streak. That there's going to be two guys in a row who are leading the team." No. This is a Shanahan offense. So yeah, no, it's going to happen. I did pick up Jordan Mason on a couple of teams. I had Ty Davis-Price on a couple. I did not grab any Jeff Wilson. The teams that I just went other ways on Fab this week. I just think he's going to be a 1 or 2 week guy when it comes to that. So yeah, I just don't get a good feeling out of that. But someone we got a good feeling, and rookies were all the rage during training camp, and there was one in particular that was kind of a problem take for both of us. You retweeted an old tweet of yours where you were kind of saying that Jahan Dotson was going to be a guy, and I'm going to confess right now that Sunday morning I was on the Fantasy Points Discord, and I recommended to a subscriber to start Romeo Dobbs over Jahan Dotson. So, mi amigo, estamos juntos. We're in the same boat. I'm kind of changing. Are you kind of changing your tune on Dotson? Because I kind of am.
I mean, I think you gotta, kind of follow the trail here with Jahan Dotson. Terry McLaurin is clearly the number one guy here, but Jahan Dotson ran 89% of routes. Like, you can't just look at that and gloss over it. Curtis Samuel was probably the other guy. If you weren't adding Jeff Wilson, you're adding him. But I mean, the fact that Jahan Dotson was the second outside receiver and running an almost 90% clip of routes, and the fact that he was productive in those. I mean, he only had 5 targets, but converted 2 of those for touchdowns. I think that says something about how they want to involve him in the offense. So we always see these kind of sneaky guys. We look at the top, rookie wide receivers, the Traylon Burks, Garrett Wilsons, and all that. And then there's those guys that kind of lie in the weeds. Justin Jefferson and Brandon Ayuk were 2 of those guys too. I mean, back in my day, I remember when people were saying Justin Jefferson was just a slot receiver, and now he's the best wide receiver in football.
And it is incredible how that happened. I mean, narratives are what kind of get a life of their own. Yep. I look at that. I look at Dotson. Their snap count was, I think, him and McLaurin were like 1 snap off of each other. I think McLaurin was 1 snap more. I mean, to me, that's getting on the field. The targets are going to be there. I think he's just going to get more and more of a connection with Wentz. I caution people on reading too much into the 2 touchdowns that first, in the first week, because if he rolls a dud this week, don't write him off, because he is very involved. He is going to be very involved in this offense. I think he's going to have more weeks where he does well for fantasy teams than he gooses, or as some people like to say. But we kind of touched on it a little bit, the surreal experience that was the Kings Classic, during the and was that your first year, or had you been to Canton, the Fantasy Football Expo before?
I was there I was there last year as well.
Okay.
But and then actually did the snake draft with Brian Drake, me and him combined on the team last year. But this was my first auction draft for the Kings Classic.
At what point did you find yourself looking around and being like, wow, these are some heavyweights in the fantasy industry?
Yeah, and I'm sitting over here. I mean, we got Dwayne McFarland and Doug Orth and Fantasy Mojo, Darren Armani, and Marcus Grant sitting across from me. Literally Doug Orth, right there. Yeah, it was just crazy, just the amount of people that you have to kind of go toe to toe with for all these guys. I mean, just all these players, and you gotta just pick your spots. Like, I didn't spend over $29 on any one player, but I did go in with a little bit of a game plan that I wanted to try to get as many like not mid tier, but like the upper mid tier wide receivers as I could get with, kind of the main part of my budget. And I think I did just that. But, with the auctions, you got to throw your plan out the window. I mean, I took Travis Etienne and I was happy with that. And I'm typically a more zero RB centric kind of guy. And then I ended up taking J.K. Dobbins. So I was like, oh, we'll just roll with it now.
That was, one of those things because I was guest drafting for Graham Barfield, and
Right.
I had Scott Pianowski to my left, who I've been listening to for
Yeah.
years, and I had Ryan McDowell to my right, and who I'd met the day before. And Scott and I were talking baseball a little bit before the draft happened, and Vin Scully had just passed away. So me being a lifelong Dodger fan and former member of the front office, he was, gave condolences like it was a family member, which he really was. But I mean, I sat there, I had to be remind myself, it's like, okay, come on, we got to be balling. And my strategy was I wanted to go hero RB because Graham and I both have very similar thoughts on that. And so spent up on Jonathan Taylor right off the bat. I think he and Christian McCaffrey were both the most expensive players in the whole league. But then I heard what they were going for in the other two drafts.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, we got him for 52 and they were going for like in the 60s on the other one. So I was just like, wow, I don't know if we weren't being aggressive enough or anything like that. That was that was very interesting. And of course,
the top end of that draft, I mean, was just especially with the running backs, was just so flat. Like, I mean, I believe the last two like elite-ish running backs. I think Joe Mixon was the last like of the elite running backs, and even he went for like I want to say mid 40s or something like that, and it was just very weird. But it kept a lot of people in the game just because those salaries were depressed, even just that little bit, because every dollar counts with that. So. And then I did not really expect to get like a Travis Kelce, but he was kind of there, so I took him. Like I said, well, Dobbins didn't expect that, but you just kind of roll with it at this point. But I definitely think I could certainly competing in this league. That's all I wanted to do. I just didn't want to be a goose egg.
After the first week, I was a little bit debating over one of the dollar picks that I got at the end, but then getting Taysom Hill for $1 as one of the last picks, I just thought, seeing how he got used last week, I thought, oh, okay, we may be starting him at some point.
Yeah, who in my last bid when they were rifling through and everybody had $1, you know who my pick was, and I dropped him. It was Curtis Samuel. I dropped him because Isaiah Likely was out there, and I was intrigued. I was just a little bit intrigued. So I'm like, Curtis Samuel, I'll just, if I really want him, I'll get him back. Yeah. I could use him, but it is what it is. We'll pivot. I'm sure Juwan Jennings is just as good.
Oh man. Yeah. When Trey Lance is, the high powered Trey Lance, 5,000 yard passing offense, it happens in 20.
Hey, if Debo's in the backfield, I mean, why not? It's worth a flyer.
Exactly. So I wanted to ask, you wear so many hats on the fantasy side. How do you juggle all the balls in the air?
By just a wing and a prayer, my man. I mean, it's really it's not a lot of work when you share these streams and everything with your friends. Like, I've gotten to know all these people, and they are some of my best friends, like Andrew Cooper. We met on the in the Scott Fishbowl 102 group chat, and then ended up me, Linda, Jordan Loop, and JB Barry all started the Fantasy Besties, and then now it was me and Gary Hatta who won Scott Fishbowl 9. We started Lightning Round, and we brought in Andrew Cooper, who's now obviously a full-time member. And then with Fighting Chance Fantasy as well, where I got my start, a lot of people came in with like Britt Flynn, who I noticed was doing a lot of great work. And she was pretty much the MVP of the expo, by the way, winning the FFPC main event spot, and just her all over everything. The women in fantasy football panel, a lot of great stuff there. Yeah, we brought her on as well. So just being great people. I mean, just trying to surround yourself with good people, and people that just it's not work. Like, I mean, doing all this stuff, it might feel like work to some people. It does not feel like work. It's just hanging out with your friends. And we just happen to, do it in front of so many people on YouTube and Twitter. And it's awesome. It really is.
And it's so cool, and you're right, and it was great to put the faces to the people, the screens that you've been sharing with.
For sure.
So yeah, that was that made it special. But yeah, you're right, to be able to do this and just talk about something that you just enjoyed talking about, which is kind of what this whole thing, Familia FFB started about. It was just arguing over football, and just to be able to do it, and to give well thought out opinions. It's awesome. It just can't say enough about how much fun like this is. How does this work? Come on, man. Come on. We're not digging ditches. We're not digging ditches. So, but one of the things you're definitely putting in some work. You put it out there the other day. You want to be 40 to 50 pounds lighter by this time next year, by the time of the next, what inspired that fitness journey, and kind of how's it going?
Well, the hardest part of like most fitness journeys is actually starting, and then just taking it one day at a time, and just kind of being your own. You gotta do some motivating, but you also have to have some outside motivation too. So I mean, just getting up early, going out, even just going out for a walk, like, and just being so diligent. Drinking, like, my biggest thing is like, I'm not a big fan of just straight water, but I know I have to do it. So, yeah, I really want to just get up, and it's tough because, living in Fargo, I mean, it's going to be like, there's going to be 7 feet of snow by the time, week 3 hits. So, you got to kind of do it in house. Like, I've got an exercise bike that I bought, and I want to just, making sure I'm staying on top of it, set a routine, and then just not wavering, not making excuses. So, yeah, by this time next year, I definitely want to be, 40, 50 pounds. I mean, I know that's a lot, and I'll be happy if it's like 20 or 30, honestly, but I wanted to at least set the goal a little bit higher than maybe what is realistic, just so, and I, like I said, I wouldn't be mad if, I come in, 20, 30 pounds and I'm just feeling better, because that's what it's all about. I don't want to be just sitting here, and I obviously do a lot of work at the computer, just doing a lot of things, wearing all those hats. But, I want to be the best version of myself that I can be, not just for me, but for, friends and family and everything like that too. So, that's kind of where that journey, started from. And, I was looking at some pictures at the expo, that were taken, and I was kind of just like, I feel like I can be better. So that's kind of the origin of where that kind of came from, and now it's just a matter of putting it into motion and getting things started.
And you know what? It's awesome. I'm a big fan of exercise bikes. They're easy on the joints, and the great thing is you can do some reading. So you can do some fantasy reading and some research while you're getting in.
Hey, Best Ball Resurrection just started up on Underdog, so there you go. I'll do the Underdog Cardio Club. Perfect.
Oh, love it right there. Hey, you got it right there. You could get a draft in or whatever, right? A lightning round draft. Perfection. No, awesome. I'm going to be one of your biggest fans. I'll definitely be giving you some. I already gave you some advice. Obviously, my wife's a dietitian, and she's as she's a big fan of people making life changes. I will say one of the big things, boiled beans, frijoles de la olla, are very, very healthy. So, and when you mash them up, maybe throw them in with some, pico de gallo, some chopped tomatoes, chopped onions, very tasty, very tasty.
Speaking my language, all right that. There. Speaking my language.
It's all healthy. It's all healthy when it's just water and it's water, a little bit of salt and beans, and that's it. So just right there. I'll give you the cooking times on it too. But so mi amigo, we got a section, our news section. It's called Chisme, which chisme is gossip in Spanish. So I love to call that. And so we get, we talked already about, Keenan Allen's been ruled out for Thursday Night Football, that big showdown on Joshua Palmer, next man up. And is this game just going to be like what we expect all AFC West games to be this year, is just a shootout?
I mean, I'm certainly hoping so because that was the one division I was making sure I kind of circled these games because, these games, I mean, especially, Chargers Raiders wasn't, as advertised, I suppose, but, hopefully this game can kind of make up for it. Yeah, I think, with Keenan Allen out, I think Palmer's going to be in the mix. Certainly. I do think, DeAndre Carter, who came in a little bit, is going to have a bit of a role too, but I just want Mike Williams to just stud up and just I tweeted, I believe it was like, I put up one of those like bunny rabbit signs that said Mike Williams, 9 catches, 141 and 2 touchdowns for week one. Not even close on that, but I mean, they just signed him obviously to a new deal. Mike Williams, we all thought was going to supplant Keenan Allen as the wide receiver one. He ran the routes, but God, he just leaves you wanting a lot more than what you actually get out of him. So I just want him to just assert himself and leave no doubt who is the top guy in the Chargers. And now he's got that opportunity with Allen, at least not playing here. So yeah, I think Palmer's going to mix in. I think Carter will mix in too, a little bit here.
Yeah, a little bit. I was actually at the game, at the Charger Raider game, and I kept
Okay.
asking myself, why is yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I had the Adentro Y Afuera, which we're talking about in a bit. Mike Williams was one of my guys because I kept going back to that game 17 last year. He was the guy that he kept going, that Justin Herbert kept going to on 3rd and 4th down. And so I just said, this is his guy. This is going to be, I was seeing, 900, 9 catches, 140 yards, just like, and with a touchdown. So I think this game's going to be just, it's going to be fun because the Thursday night games seem to go over a lot more. So I'm hoping that, and it being early in the season, so love that one. So you mentioned J.K. Dobbins. He was practicing this. Are you kind of like a real time question here? Are you starting him if he's active?
If he's active, yeah, I think you got to start him because, I mean, we had no idea how that was going to shake out with Mike Davis and Kenyon Drake and even Justice Hill. But I mean, with Dobbins, if he's active, I don't think there's any doubt who's going to be getting like 55 to 60% of the carries at least. And I think it's certainly should be Dobbins, even if they don't work him in any in the passing game. That's fine with me. I think there's going to be enough to work with there to at least put him in flex consideration and then let him kind of work more into a little bit of a passing, because that's really all that's separating him, is that the fact that he hasn't really had a passing down role. I mean, that's always been with some other guys, or he's just never really gotten it. But yeah, I feel like J.K. Dobbins just can be in maybe like that RB 20 to 22 range where you should be expecting the world if you're putting him in your lineup, but I think he can at least, we know the Ravens want to run the ball. They definitely had more pass rate over expectation last week and kind of keeping up that 2021 theme. But I think it's going to consolidate a little bit more with Dobbins in there versus having that full blown committee.
Yeah, and you're right. I remember talking to a beat writer last year who was saying that they were working in a lot of different kind of sets and play pass plays for J.K. Dobbins. So let's see if it comes through. Maybe it'll be slow going beginning, but just I just want to see return to health because it's just such a beautiful player. I mean, just a great player. And quick hello to Alberto. So thank you for joining us. Muchas gracias. We'll get to the question in a second. So, another one that we're talking about. I mean, you've Najee. He's got the foot. Says he's going to play in week 2 against the Patriots. I'm not feeling very confident starting him, but I mean, if you drafted him, it was with a first round pick. So I'm just kind of like, I kind of doing it with my nose plugged.
Yeah, I mean, Najee Harris, I mean, yeah, if you drafted him in the first, obviously the first or second round, you're kind of tied to him at this point, and you really have no choice to start him. But yeah, I mean, it's if I actually had a choice in the matter where, I have maybe some more higher end options if I went, with a few running backs in the first 5 rounds, then maybe that would be a situation where I'd consider, benching him. And I mean, that Steelers offensive line is just in shambles right now. And then just Mitch Trubisky, just compounding matters. I mean, I know Mike Tomlin said that they want to ride, to Trubisky for the duration of the season and let Pickett kind of learn, but the yelling and the voices are going to get louder and louder if Trubisky keeps going, the way he's going. I mean, I think we know who Mitch Trubisky is at this point, and I just don't think Mike Tomlin, maybe he's missed a couple of those memos.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think their bye week is week 9, so that's usually the week that these kind of changes can happen. But you're right.
Yeah.
If it gets louder and louder, it's going to be tough. We got a couple questions in the chat. I wanted to see Darnell Mooney for Gabe Davis. Who wins the rest of the season? I think it's kind of easy one. I'm gonna let you hit this one out of the park.
Yeah, I've never shied away from my love of Gabe Davis. And sometimes I think fantasy is just easy, where I will take the guy that's getting 100% of the routes on a team that's quarterbacked by Josh Allen versus Darnell Mooney, who is a good player, but, is kind of tied to Justin Fields and that just Bears offense that just wants to run the ball and the passing game is an afterthought. So I think Gabe Davis is just a smash.
100%. I could not agree with you more. It's Gabe Davis all day. You said it yourself. Exactly. The best, the better quarterback in a pass happy offense. So go there. Yep. So someone dropped Elijah Mitchell, 12 team PPR. Yeah. You grab him.
Yeah.
I'd spend about $20 on him if $100 budget.
Yeah, I think 20 to 30% is a good, kind of benchmark for getting somebody like that. I mean, he shouldn't pop up in waivers too often. So yeah, especially if you have an IR spot, just scoop them up and stash them, and you've got potentially a mid to late season hammer. If he can reclaim that job, unless like Jordan Mason comes out and is just gangbusters, like that's pretty much the only scenario there, or he ends up with, that could be the gross thing too, is he could be working back into a committee where maybe they can't take one of those guys off the field. So that's kind of the danger in that. But right now, I would 20 to 25 up to 30% of my budget I would put on Mitchell.
Yeah, I think so. Mr. Scampers had one. Yeah, I know my belly hurts on all my Najee teams, but are we starting Singletary? I don't think I'm starting Singletary. I'd consider Kirk.
I think I'd start Kirk. I mean, he got hyper targeted in that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was pretty much him, a little bit of Zay Jones, and then everybody else was kind of, fighting for scraps. So, and
it's a home game.
Yeah, I'm down with Kirk over Singletary for sure. I mean, it can't be any worse for James Cook, can it? And I don't think. I mean, I guess the pro case is Zach Moss can't come in and catch 6 passes again and just take that work from Singletary, and James Cook, can only go up for him. But I think you got to go with Kirk here.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, we've got a couple questions we're going to save for a little bit later. But, Alan Lazard kind of returning to practice, considering the fact that the Packers are kind of conservative when it comes to the players. It reminded me of a Jeff Kent story that Eddie Murray, the Hall of Fame first base coach for the Dodgers, I think it was 2006 or 2007. Eddie told me the story about how I wanted to get a comment from him for the magazine, the Dodger magazine that I was producing, and he told me a story about how there was a day where Kent was definitely banged up. But he came in, he played. I think he'd gotten hit the day before, and he kind of played through it. Didn't really do much, but he was a presence in the lineup. And Eddie told me that after the game, he went up to Jeff and he said, "I appreciate you doing what you did." And I looked at, when I thought about that, it made me, this Alan Lazard comment made me think of that, because it made me think that Lazard, they put him out on a limited basis just to kind of say that he's going to be out there. And I don't know if even if he plays, I think he's going to be more decoy than anything. So that's that. Long story short, I didn't want to get too long-winded on that. I
Hey,
can't be one.
I'm a baseball guy. Like, first and foremost, like, I played baseball for 17 years. I played baseball and then just kind of stumbled into foot. Not really stumble. I'm a lifelong Packer fan, but I mean, baseball was my first love for sure. So I remember when Jeff Kent was on the Mets. Like, that's how
Oh,
far
yes.
that goes. So we're talking like what, mid to late 90s. But yeah, Alan Lazard, that is one guy. I mean, like I said, I'm a Packer fan. That is one guy I did not draft like almost anywhere. That guy, he's a great real life player. I think he's one of the best blocking wide receivers. Like, he reminds me of remember Michael Jenkins from the Falcons. Like,
Yes. Mhm.
he is like a bigger version of Michael Jenkins. He did not have the first round capital, but just the way he plays. I mean, he only earned a middling amount of targets. Yeah, Lazard's never been that target earner for me, but if he can find his way on the field, I think he'll have more of a a real actual NFL role versus a fantasy one. So even if I did have him, I'd be kind of just shying away from him. I just want to see how this wide receiver group shakes out, because all the routes between Dubs and Watson and Watkins and Cobb, they're all flat, like across the board. Nobody really separated themselves. They're all running like high 60s percentage of routes. So I mean, somebody's got to separate themselves. Hopefully it's Dubs or Watson, because I cannot for the life of me. I won't be able to understand if Sammy Watkins and Cobb are getting routes over the two young guys that you want to see kind of ascend. But I mean, Lazard, if he's out there, he's going to be a healthy Lazard is the wide receiver one of this team. So, well, we'll see. But I'm just was very hesitant on drafting his profile, just because I just don't buy it.
I don't either. At that point, I remember I talked to Dusty Evely before
Great guy. Love Dusty.
great guy, great guy. Oh, amigo of the show. He was talking about how that Lazard kind of gets those tight end. He runs those tight end routes. He doesn't do the deep stuff, but he kind of does some of the dirty work. So I think that's kind of what he is. Maybe they need that to help, maybe with that and Tanyan, but as we said, that's where the story, the decoy story comes in. So
yeah, I mean, he's a perfect split end. Like, if he can just take all that, the jamming at the line and just let the flankers and slot guys just, run free, like he is making his money.
And how different is it if Watson catches that ball? So how
It is
different is
way
this?
different.
Mm-hmm.
It is way different. Like, that was just one of the most brutal drops I've ever seen. Like, that is a way to start. And I know Christian Watson is went to North Dakota State, so like I believe his entire family follows me on Twitter. I've talked to them before, and it's just they're all a delight. Like, his mother is a delight, I'll say that. But yeah, it was very bad just to see 9 streaking down there and just had that ball come off. Very brutal. But you know what, like we said about James Cook, it can only go up.
And I'm going to be very curious how he reacts to this, and because I think we're going to see what kind of player he is based on that. So, and one player, he's also I think he's over behind your left ear, T. Higgins, the concussion, he's back to practice. You feeling, how are you feeling about his coming back this week?
Yeah, very encouraged to see, Higgins already, practicing even in a limited fashion. So, hopefully, even if he does not play, that's just going to open more stuff up for Jamar Chase. We know how condensed that, Cincinnati Bengals offense is just based on personnel. It's pretty much, when all are healthy, it's Boyd, Higgins, and Chase. And like, I believe there was only like 27 wide receiver targets amongst anybody else between like Mike Thomas and Stanley Morgan and Trent Taylor and all those other guys. So it is those three or nobody. And Mike Thomas ran quite a few routes just because Higgins was out. So maybe that opens up stuff for Hayden Hurst too, because he, he did pretty well too. I mean, he gained a lot of targets. I mean, that game, was essentially 5 quarters. So I mean, yeah, but if Higgins does play, I think maybe you dip him down into like the mid-range wide receiver 2 for fantasy, but I think, give him a week and then he'll be just, that offense will be just humming again. I mean, it's humming anyway with Jamar Chase, but you add a T Higgins in the mix. There you go.
And you know what? It's funny. I put Jamar Chase as my wide receiver 1 for the season because I think he's going to ball out. But I mean, a couple of people were like, "Well, what about T Higgins?" I said, "I think T Higgins is still going to be spectacular.
Yeah.
I just think Jamar Chase is gonna. I think that offense is enough to have Jamar Chase be the wide receiver 1 and Higgins still be a top 15 receiver because that's how good Joe Burrow is, and I think that's going to happen. So We'll see. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So Adentro Y Afuera. You're in, you're out. This is the weekly show. I kind of put together, grab some players that I'm kind of in, I'm kind of out on. I'd love your reaction to it. Trey Lance is a guy that I put him in here kind of a little bit where as in Adentro. I kind of want to see it. And part of the reason that why I'm in on him is because he still had 54 yards rushing on 13 attempts last week. I think there might be the passing line at 164 yards could be in there. There's not going to be the crazy rain that they had. It's supposed to be 70 degrees and no rain. Seahawks are kind of down on defense. He's one of the guys that I really want to see this week, but I'm kind of in on him because I think the Seahawks are up for a letdown, and I think a home game is going to be a little different for him. What kind of thoughts do you have on Lance?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of throw that game out the window last week. Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to take any tangible, concrete data points from that quagmire that was Soldier Field last week. But against Seattle, like a home game there, I'm perfectly fine with, Trey Lance. I mean, we know what he provides. He provides a rushing floor, and then if he can take advantage of those weapons, then fantastic. Like, he doesn't have to be a good NFL quarterback look at Jalen Hurts. But by all means, last year or the year before, he was really not that good of a quarterback, but he was great in fantasy. And I don't think Trey Lance is quite as quote unquote bad as Jalen Hurts as an actual NFL passer, but I think you can make that kind of correlation there with Lance is still kind of getting his feet wet, not coming out of Chicago, and maybe they'll get a little drier, but against Seattle, they just came off a very emotional game with Russell Wilson coming in there, and I think maybe this is a nice letdown spot for Seattle. I mean, Seattle's going to be letting people down for the most part all season. I think this may be the first kind of game for that with Trey Lance. I think he's going to assert himself this week.
Yeah, I think having Jamal Adams be out for this game is in multiple weeks is going to hurt for them.
That's big.
And I mentioned the Rams. Me being a Ram fan, I was also at the Rams game, at just the Rams Bills game, and it was not pretty. But I think it's going to be different this week. It's going to be Atlanta. They don't have a vicious pass rush like the Bills do. They have a good secondary. AJ Terrell is definitely a player, but I'm kind of there's a part of me that's in on Matthew Stafford because I think he's going to have more time and be able to just kind of work a little bit more. What are kind of you have any thoughts on that one?
I mean, as far as Stafford goes, I mean, he's been playing hurt his entire career. So yeah. what's another, UCL thing? Like, what's that? But I mean, against Atlanta, AJ Terrell is a stud corner, but I mean, when you have Cooper Kupp, I mean, that kind of tilts the the scales in that direction. And I guess it's going to be a running theme. It can't get any worse for Allen Robinson, but that's maybe the one area that I am a little bit concerned about is if Stafford is truly, having some issues with that elbow, throwing maybe on the boundaries is maybe a cause for concern versus throwing, shorter A-dot passes to Cooper Kupp. That might be my, one prevailing thought there, but I think by and large Stafford will be fine, and this is a get right spot I think against Atlanta at home.
Yeah, I was definitely feeling that, leaving SoFi Stadium that day. One guy I'm really big on, and I may actually spend up some money on DFS is Nick Chubb. It really looks like the offense is going to be running through him. He had 22 rush attempts. He went for 141 yards. The Jets were number 29 last year in rushing yards allowed. I think you don't improve that much from year to year on your run defense, and this game's going to be in the dog pound. I mean, any reason not to like go hog wild on Chubb this week?
I really like. I mean, he's literally in my DFS lineup, like a couple of them actually right now. I have probably the grossest lineup I've probably ever constructed, with a Detroit Lions stack against Washington and Nick Chubb and the Browns defense. So it's definitely out of my comfort zone as far as the most exciting players you want to play, but just in terms of pure production, I mean, it looked like Cleveland didn't want anything to do with having Jacoby Brissett throw the ball a
No.
ton. So, I mean, that's an easy pivot for Nick Chubb, and then by extension, Kareem Hunt too. So, yeah, fully in on Nick Chubb. Never thought I'd say that because I really never drafted the guy. But when it comes to like DFS and stuff like that, you throw that all out the window. Browns have a really good matchup against the Jets, and Chubb should have a nice game.
Yeah, I didn't seem to draft him much in best ball unless he fell.
Yeah, same.
So that was yeah. But this week is a big week, and Emmett Golden from ESPN Cleveland just kept kept going on and on about how they're gonna live on the running game until Deshaun Watson is back.
Yeah.
This is one interesting one. I got Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson on this one because I feel like this could be a get right game. Even I mean, it could be dangerous because it's at Pittsburgh to make this call, but they lost. They looks like they lost T.J. Watt. Yeah, the Mac Jones is having back issues. This is still an O line that PFF ranked number 7 going into the season. I got to figure that the two of that between the two of these guys, Harris and Stevenson, that they're going to have more than 17 combined rush attempts. And Joe Mixon did go for 82 yards, and he also went for 60 plus in the air. Uh, how dangerous is it making this call?
I don't think it's dangerous. I think they got to do something to kind of manage the issues that Mac Jones is
Mhm.
having with his back spasms. So I think the perfect pivot to that is lean on your run game, and you got two horses there. They put Ty Montgomery on IR, so maybe they throw out a little Pierre Strong, or give Ramondre a little more receiving work. But I think it's definitely they got to lean on those guys. I mean, they got the score really wasn't that indicative. It was 20-7 Dolphins, but just they did not look like they belonged on that field with they might be the most unathletic team in football. Like, honestly, the Patriots. I mean,
Mhm.
especially going up against the Dolphins with all they have is speed upon speed upon speed. It just looked like a mismatch. So I think going to maybe a slower pace game with the Steelers, being able to kind of dictate tempo, I think Damian Harris and Stevenson will be a big part of that. I mean, it's really hard to lean one way or the other. But if you really think that Ramondre Stevenson is ripe for getting some of that receiving work that Ty Montgomery is leaving behind, I think he might have the edge over Damian Harris.
I think yeah, that was the way I'm kind of leaning on that one. It's just the work in the passing game.
Yep.
Hunter Renfro. Yeah, a couple guys the next two guys, Hunter Renfro and Michael Thomas, kind of different guys. Renfro is the wide receiver 32, and I mean, I just keep coming back to the fact that I think that's low. I think people are overreacting to Devontae Adams being so incredible and getting the 17 targets. This is still a Josh McDaniels offense, which loves the slot. The Cardinals, just their secondary is basura right now. They're just flaming basura right now. I just kind of see this game as a potential shootout. And I think Hunter Renfro is a guy that is going to get his this week. Maybe not 10, 12 targets, but I think he's going to get plenty.
Yeah, I mean, was lined up with Waller. They both had 6 targets. I mean, he's running the routes that you want. I mean, he almost ran 90% of routes. I mean, I just think better days are coming, and I think that's maybe an overreaction to have him. I mean, that's kind of where he was being drafted, though. Is about running around those mid-30s. But
Yeah.
I think just I think there's going to be a lot more, especially with how, there's really, I mean, Mac Hollins is not a factor in that offense. Obviously, Tyler Johnson. And then however you want to split that, running back receiving work too with Brandon Bolden. It's going to be Adams, Waller, and Renfro, just, as like the huge part of that pie. And Renfro's too good to not at least carve himself out a nice slice of that. So, hopefully, he did go 3 for 21, like I said, on 6 targets, but I think there's a lot more meat on the bone there for Hunter Renfro. And yeah, against this secondary, I think he can certainly work his way in and come up from that line last week.
Yeah, and I think that's with Devontae Adams still getting 10, 12, maybe even 15 targets. I think there's plenty for him to go. And Michael Thomas is a guy. I know that the defense for the Buccaneers is healthier, but I kept looking at the 2 touchdowns. He had great coverage from AJ Terrell on both of those touchdowns, and he still pulled them down. I think Jameis Winston's looking for him in key spots. I'm glad that I went wheels up on Michael Thomas this season. I grabbed him on a lot of teams, including King's Classic.
Nice. Yeah, I was just with him, like that hamstring injury that popped up, during training camp was enough to kind of scare me away. And are we gonna have to sit out, Michael Thomas, for another 5-6 weeks if this is going to be an issue? But I mean, clearly it's not an issue. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, 61% of the snaps, 83% of the routes for Michael Thomas. Yeah, the 2 touchdowns. I think that's probably going to normalize, and I wouldn't certainly expect that every week. But I mean, Jarvis Landry had a great game too. Even Chris Olave ran over 80% of the routes too. So I mean, this is a passing game that I was targeting, a lot. I have a lot of Jameis Winston. Just based on the fact that they have all these weapons now. Did not expect Juwan Johnson to be running routes at 80% either. Yeah, that was kind of wild, and that kind of tells you everything they need to know about Adam Troutman. But yeah, I mean, I think this offense, Michael Thomas probably being at the forefront of it. It's good to see him back. Football is a lot more fun with can't guard Mike.
Absolutely. So before we get into the quick afuera, I want to get in 3 quick questions, see if we could spend about 30 seconds on each one. We had Deluxe, Javonte Williams, Jalen Waddle, and Darrell Henderson for Joe Mixon and Mike Evans. I like the Javonte Jalen Waddle side because I feel like you're getting Darrell Henderson for free on that one.
That's where I'm at. I'll take the package, Javonte, Waddle, and Henderson for Evans. I mean, I think you could definitely eclipse the production that you can get out of Mixon and Evans with those. I mean, who knows with the whole K-Maker saga, how long Henderson's going to be like the 1A there, but at least in the interim, you're still getting Jalen Waddle, who's just supremely talented, and Javonte Williams. If maybe Nathaniel Hackett gets off his, infatuation with Brandon McManus, he can maybe scale back Melvin Gordon a little bit and give the most talented player in that offense some more run in Javonte Williams.
Big time. What can be done with Akers? Wait. Smoke show. Yeah, just got to wait. You just got to see if he's going to be in there and not going to get blown up. 41% fab on Darrell Henderson, 14% on Jeff Wilson. I don't think so.
I don't mind the 41% on Henderson. I mean, it's easy to say, kind of right away and having maybe that buyer's remorse, but that's the thing. If you don't buy these guys now, like you miss out, especially on Darrell Henderson, who is, I don't think should really be out there, in waivers, at least before week 1 or before week 2. So, this is the time you either make your bids and kind of live with them, or you're left in the dust and wondering, who do I pick up, Juwan Johnson or DeAndre Carter?
Oh, thank you. Yes, we are quite sexy. Not quite sexy as Chalk Block, the sexiest DFS show right now, but amigos Bo and Scott. But this one, Cole Kmet, to drop. I don't know if I'm dropping Cole Kmet. I think he's the number 2 guy on targets on that team.
Yeah, that was bad to see Cole Kmet just kind of get shut out there. But I mean, He made my all exercise team this week with running 70% of routes and only getting one target. Like, he was just running around out there, just hoping to get a little noticed by Justin Fields. But I just don't know if I drop him right away for Everett or Higbee. I am very encouraged by Gerald Everett's usage in that offense, so at least in week one. So that is encouraging.
I agree. I like that a lot. I think he's a part of it. It's just I think he's like the fourth in the pecking order when it comes to targets behind Allen, Williams, and Eckler. So those guys are going to get a lot. But I liked what I saw out of him on the routes that he did run. The times he was targeted, and they were good shots. And they've got he and Staley have history going back to the Ram games, the Ram years. So we're gonna fly through the Afuera guys. So we only have 4 of them. Kirk Cousins it's our Monday Night Football. It's in Philly. This was the number 11. Philly was the number 11 defense in pass yardage allowed last year. Is it just as easy as that the Monday Night Football? He's Kirk Cousins pick against him on prime time.
I mean, it's really hard to say that when you have Justin Jefferson to throw the
true.
ball to, and Adam Thielen, and even KJ Osborne, and apparently Johnny Munt is now a thing. While Irv Smith is recovering from thumb surgery. He is actually, I'm not even kidding. He is like our lightning round show mascot, Johnny Munt. Even going back like way back in the day, I think I have a Johnny Munt T-shirt in my closet, and I'll go get that and show you that. But he I don't know if I'd fade Kirk Cousins, but he's definitely on like the fringe of like my top 12. They did get run over by DeAndre Swift. I think the Lions are just so plucky. Like, they just always find a way to stay in games. But I don't mind Cousins. I'm just tempering expectations.
A little bit. Yeah, definitely tempering expectations. Also, Derrick Henry. I worry about this game because it's the game script. And the Bills are 10-point favorites. That's home. The Bills Mafia is going to be just local beyond all get out. That's the one. I think Henry isn't going to get as many rush attempts because I think they're going to have to put the ball in Tannehill's hands to throw it. And we know that they don't use Henry in the rushing game and the passing game that much.
Yeah, I mean, he could totally game script it out. Like, even when he was running, like last week, he was just a guy against like, he was sub 4 yards per carry. Didn't really do much. I think he just earned a target. But yeah, Dontrell Hilliard, the 2 touchdowns look great for him. But I think he could get a little more run. I mean, they were still working in, some of those other guys too, like Hassan Haskins, and
Yes.
There's another guy I can't think of right now. Anyway, so I just
Hilliard?
think
Dontrell.
there was another. I think that might have been the guy. But Hilliard, I think he'll probably have more of a role, especially in the receiving game. Yeah, Henry is kind of just with that foot injury, it really scares me off, just because if you look back to like Sean Alexander when he was going and had all those 300-yard carry or 300 carry seasons, he had a similar injury. I believe for Henry, it was the 5th metatarsal, and for Alexander it was the 4th metatarsal. I could have that mixed up, but Alexander was out of the league like a season and a half later, like with Washington. So with those older backs and just accruing so many carries, it's just so worrying to me. And I hope watching Derrick Henry is fun. I just don't know if how long he can keep up just all that volume.
It's the bullets. I always say there's only so many bullets that these guys have in them, especially when it comes to running backs. I started that with pitchers, but yeah, definitely with the running backs, there's only so many car crashes that they can get into. So I know you got your show coming up soon, so we're gonna zip through these next 2. David Montgomery, how worrisome is Khalil Herbert to David Montgomery's touch share?
Well, just from the eye test, like Khalil Herbert's just looked much more dynamic and more explosive than David Montgomery. I mean, just for years, just looking at David Montgomery, he's just been kind of a plotter, and he's still gotten a lot of that receiving work. So I think that's maybe buoyed him a little more than we want to let on. But I really like Khalil Herbert and what he can provide. We know that, Luke Getsy coming over from the Packers system, obviously they're using multiple running backs. And I think that this could be just the start of that with Herbert and maybe managing more of David Montgomery. So I don't think that, I think we kind of saw that during draft season where David Montgomery just kept slipping and slipping. And that's just what the consensus seems to have fixated on, is that maybe David Montgomery either A, doesn't have it anymore, or B, that Khalil Herbert is a real thorn in David Montgomery's upside. So I think both can be true. I prefer to, if I'm going to play the Chicago Bears running back, I'll play it through the cheaper Herbert. And
Mm-hmm.
right now, if he can keep this momentum going, I think Herbert could have a real shot, at least providing standalone value in fantasy over, Montgomery, who Montgomery is not a fun guy to even put in your lineups and just set and, be like, great, I have a flex or an RB2.
Yeah, it's kind of like Singletary when we got the question earlier. He's kind of
Yep.
like in that same area. So, and CD Lamb, it pains me to put him in there, but just the downgrade to quarterback, the offensive line just decimated with injuries. It's hard, you're playing him because you drafted him in the late first or in the second round, but I'm not feeling good about it. Are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I'm not feeling great about it, but with him, if you have him, you got to stay the course. Like, he was just so woefully inefficient. I mean, 11 targets and he only caught 2 of them. But everything else that, he in this offense, he has, and, running 98% of the routes, he's, going to be that number one with a bullet. Like, that's what we wanted out of CD Lamb was last year with Amari Cooper, and they were even playing like Cedric Wilson over and having Lamb come off the field. Like, he only ran 76% of routes last year. Like, you drafted him in the first round, like, you got to give him at least a fair shake, but yet you're playing all these other, like Amari Cooper, Gallup. I mean, I can understand maybe that to an extent, but Cedric Wilson. So seeing him get a 98% route share was great to see. And then now the Cooper Rush saga begins, hopefully for the 4 weeks that they threw out on a timetable rather than the 6 to 8.
Oh man. So a couple last ones. We maybe see we can get through these. Quick question. Ola from
Yeah.
Baltimore. Moore. I imagine that's Elijah Moore or Henderson in a 12 PPR. I may be
The
looking at
Deontay maybe
Deontay.
too.
Yeah, that's got to be Deontay. I think it's Deontay on that one. I'm tempted on Henderson. I'd be
Yeah.
tempted on Henderson.
Yeah, I like Deontay there. I mean, the one thing with the Jets is that Joe Flacco is such a running back, you know, target monster. Like, I mean, just seeing Brees Hall and Michael Carter just rack up targets. I mean, it's to the detriment of those of guys like Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. I mean, they just drop back. I think he had 60 pass attempts last week. Like, that's just wild. But I don't think we're going to be seeing that quite, again, at least right now. But yeah, Deontay I would play definitely in full PPR.
And let's see. Trey Lance, Tyreek Hill, and Lenny for Devontae, Lamar, and Lazard. I think I like the Lance Tyreek. Well, the Lamar side is Lamar Devontae. You get two of the best players in the league, and now,
I think I'd take Devontae, Lamar, and Lazard and kind of eat that with Lazard, just knowing
yeah.
that you're getting Devontae Adams and Lamar Jackson. It's enticing.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so last one. I'm dropping James Cook for Jordan Mason. So
I don't know if I go that far. I think you got to
yeah.
kind of see how they deploy him this week. If he's fully in that doghouse, then maybe after this week you can cut bait. But I don't think I'd drop him for Jordan Mason, at least right yet.
Oh man. Well, mi amigo, I know you got to run and finish getting ready for a show. Can you give us a little preview on what you're going to be talking about with week 2 and your show that's coming up in a little bit?
Yeah, so for lightning round, starts in about 25 minutes, youtube.com/lightning round. We're doing our strategy session for week 2. Myself, Andrew Cooper, and Britt Flynn We will be so it's an every week kind of format where we have things that we're excited about for week 2, things that we're nervous about, and then some questions that we want answered for this week for this week's slate of games. So going to be a lot of fun. Always a lot of fun with those people, and I hope you guys come and join us in about, like I said, about 25 minutes.
Yeah, lightning round fantasy. Any question you want answered this week? Give us a little preview.
Let me pull it. Hold on, I got the show sheet right here. I will pull it up here.
So while you're saying my question that I want answered is, I want a better look at the year 2 quarterbacks. So that's one of my questions. I want to get a little more. I want to get 4 weeks before I make my determination on these guys. Obviously, we're not going to get Zach Wilson, but the other guys. That's my thing.
Yeah, I want to know what they're, that's just get some more concrete data points. I did put who will separate from the Packers receivers to gain a meaningful route share with Lazard in the lineup. I mean, like I said, it's very flat. They all ran about high 60% in route share. So the wheat's got to separate from the chaff a little bit here. I think hopefully it's not the old veterans, it's the young bulls and Romeo Dubs and Watson who can put some juice into this Packers offense.
Oh man. Yeah, Johnny Munt all day long. Yes, come on. Right.
Monday Night Football.
Wow, I didn't realize how busy the chat was going. So thank you everybody for participating in the chat. Mi amigo, anything else you want to pump before coming out?
No, just want to say thank you for having me. And like I said, it was a pleasure meeting you in Canton, and glad we got to do this. And we'll have to have you on lightning round. Once we get into 2023 here, we'll definitely return the favor. And I can't wait to do it again.
I'd love it. Yes. You siempre estás en tu casa. You are in your home. You're in your living room in this one. So I appreciate that. Familia, we're going to let Kevin go get ready to his show. Otra vez. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, Familia FFB. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe. Go to fantasypoints.com. 22 Familia 10, 22 Familia 10. If you want to do it in Spanish, get yourself 10% off. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Familia FFB. But I push out all the content at Jorge Martin 17. That's how I met Kevin. So Familia, thank you so much. I'm going to have an article coming out on this tomorrow. So a little Adentro Y Afuera. So, but always enjoy the week 1 aftermath, but get ready for week 2. And remember, todos somos familia. Salud.